expected to give the Europeans, including our own Roger Marshall, a tough time on their home circuit.
So the front row, Marco Lucchinelli, Cuneo Macchi, Australian Michael Dowson, series leader David Tardozzi. And then a very interesting lineup. We've got new Australasians, we've Gary Goodfellow from Canada, Rob Phillis, who joined us in Austria, making his second appearance, and a real smattering of very fast Japanese domestic riders there.
A fine field, and they've drawn a crowd of over 45,000, the largest ever seen at Sugo for a motorcycle race. The first of the two races held its drama from the opening lap to the last. The early leader was Kenichiro Iwahashi on a Honda, but just behind him, Gary Goodfellow, a remarkable New Zealander now living in Canada. Remarkable because Goodfellow, number 8 on his Suzuki, was riding with a broken bone in his left foot, a result of a horrifying accident 4 weeks ago, and obviously in great pain. Goodfellow took up the lead in lap 4, and as we join the action at the end of lap 13, he's 20 seconds in front, but still there's drama to come. Coming to the end of lap 13, and a handsome lead now for Gary Goodfellow. Extended his lead to some 20 seconds, but he's signalling to the pits there, and I think he wants to come in at the end of the next lap. But there's the lead, Goodfellow in front, and well in front now from Cuneo Macchi.
Obviously the drying track has rendered the full wet Dunlop tyres fairly useless in these conditions. They turn to a sort of a chewing gum type substance and start to wobble about all over the place. So he's signalled to his crew to get a fresh Dunlop slick ready and also serve him well with a lightning pit stop. His pit crew were on duty 3 or 4 weeks ago at Suzuka, the biggest race in Japan in any one year, and they put in some very impressive pit stop time. So we'll be looking for that within the course of the next half a lap.
You can see the plastic plate at the top of his left foot. That's just to ease the pain, which is pretty incredible. In a race 2 weeks ago, he had to change gear with his hand. There's Tardozzi, who's struggling along in the pack in around 12th, 13th place. But a very different day today for Tardozzi. You can see the bike spinning around and no real movement forward for Tardozzi compared with the rest of them. It is all about at the moment, this man Gary Goodfellow.
But here he comes. He is making the anticipated pit stop. We saw him signal the lap before. His pit crew are ready with a fresh slick tyre. In goes the jack. The rear wheel is lifted off the ground. The high pressure quick release mechanism is operated. Chain taken off the rear sprocket there. Just one retaining bolt on these modern motorcycles. And the pit crew using every inch of their experience, and he's away and almost scooping up the pit crew as he returns to the race. Very quick stop. As we go back on the new leader, Cuneo Macchi, Yamaha rider, taking advantage of Goodfellow's unscheduled stop, and he's now got quite a healthy lead because of Goodfellow's unusual actions.
Moving towards the end of lap 21 now, and Gary Goodfellow can see Macchi in front of him on the straights. Macchi comes to the end of lap 21. It must be an agonizing time for him. The pit signaling, there it is. The lead is down to 5 seconds now. Just 5 seconds, the leeway that Gary Goodfellow has to make up on Cuneo Macchi.
Whichever way it goes, we've got a new manufacturer who should be taking a race win here.
Lead now down to a couple of seconds. And Gary Goodfellow, it looks as if the patience is paying off. The gamble of changing his tyres at the crucial moment has paid off as well. And that the time is running out now for Macchi.
They'll remember this race at Sugo. I don't think there could have been another instance where a rider in a short race like this had the guts to come in, make a tyre change, and then go after his prey again. And there's Macchi, he's run off. Can you hear the engine revving? The engine revving there. It seems to me that he was having a problem with the throttle control. You could certainly hear the engine over-revving itself as he shot off the circuit there.
So now, set sailing for home. Gary Goodfellow, what a remarkable win this will be. Disappointment for Machi. For so long he struggled, but he really must have known that the odds were against him as the leeway was reduced. And now, nothing surely between Goodfellow and victory, but look at the pain on his face. Freddie Merkel has moved through the field into second place. And Yuika Ashima is third. But no one now is going to catch Gary Goodfellow, and how richly he deserves the spoils.
Goodfellow's career has unfortunately been littered with fairly serious accidents, and I think it makes it even more impressive the way he bounces back to this sort of occasion when he overcomes periods in intensive care like he did last year. In fact, in 1983, his first road race in America, he broke both his feet at Laguna Seca and was sidelined. And so he's had 2 or 3 very serious accidents, but obviously none the worse for wear with this sort of performance here today. One of the bravest men, certainly on the world scene, I would say.
Half a lap away now. And I'm sure if he's in pain, it'll be right at the back of his mind now. All he's concerned with is lasting out.
The adrenaline is a great anaesthetic, I would imagine, at this stage.
And it'll be pumping right the way through his body now as he comes into the home straight. A fantastic win for this amazing man. Gary Goodfellow wins the first race here at Sugo. One of the most remarkable races in the motorcycling year, certainly the most remarkable race we've had so far. A marvellous story. A broken leg, took a pit stop and still won. And Freddie Merkel pleased as well. Freddie Merkel finishes second on his Honda 750. And you can see how pleased they are. They love heroes in this sport, and there's no bigger hero. Look, he can hardly walk. The mechanics who helped him through the race, helped him with that fantastic pit change, and now helping him to the seat he deserves. So here's confirmation of the result in race number 1. Gary Goodfellow wins, Freddie Merkel second, Yukiya Oshima is third, Stefan Mertens is fourth. And lower down, Virginio Ferrari 10th and Marco Lucchinelli finishes 12th. So race number 2, and are we going to have the same kind of drama as we did in race number 1? The same front row of the grid. And I wonder if the start is going to be as spectacular as we saw earlier on. Remember, Gary Goodfellow made that amazing start in the first race. Can he do it again in the second? Off they go, and look at Pirovano, number 12, who's come from the third row of the grid. Fabrizio Pirovano leads. Lucchinelli is second, but what an amazing start again from Pirovano.
He really is the best starter in the World Superbike Championship. Every time into the first corner, you've got to put your money on Pirovano. Quite an amazing starter. I think it must go back to his motocross championship days in Italy, where you have to get out of a gate situation, and so you really have to be on the gas at a very critical time. So there he is, Pirovano, where we expect to see him really these days, out front on lap 1.
And what a contrast from the first race. And there's Machi, who had such a prominent part in the first race, out so early on in the second. And look at that, that's Pirovano and Mertens.
Mertens lost the bimotor on the entrance to the S's there. Pirovano had to skirt right around him, has rejoined the race. Mertens obviously unscathed. Meanwhile, back with the leaders, Lucchinelli still ahead of Dowson. It's quite hard to understand really how Mertens lost that. Here we have it in slow motion. He's lost the machine on the straight line before he's actually peeled into the corner.
And very nearly got run over by Pirovano.
Very lucky indeed there, very lucky.
Back to the lead, and it's Lucchinelli in front from Dowson, and of course they've opened up a gap now to third place.
Third and fourth places, Mertens and Pirovano. Obviously, with the drama, the rest of the field has been held back a bit, and there is quite a bit of daylight between Lucchinelli and Dowson goes round the outside of Lucchinelli on that bend there.
And he's taken him. Dowson takes the lead. Lucchinelli, though, will like nothing better than a scrap like this, and you can be sure he'll be trying to get back at him straight away, and indeed he does on the inside. Has he got by him? No, he hasn't. Yes, he has. Lucchinelli takes him. Lucchinelli first, Dowson second, and into third place moves Kenichiro Iwahashi, but it's all between these two now.
Nothing to match the Ducati this weekend on sheer brute force. On the straights, the Ducati, as illustrated by Lucchinelli's pole position, is faster than anything. Be a great source of satisfaction for the Ducati pit crew this, and of course Lucchinelli. They're making up for lost time here. And Lucchinelli's down, and Dowson as well. Both in sequence. Oh, what a horrendous spill there. Dowson acting as a voluntary marshal there as his machine bursts into flames. Let's hope they get a fire extinguisher on that very rapidly.
The race carrying on, but for how much longer? It was around the same place as Mertens and Pirovano went, and that may not be coincidence. There you see the hoses are out, the riders going round it, but how much longer can the race go on? Because there obviously is a problem there. Why did these two fall?
This is obviously oil or gasoline on the track. Both Lucchinelli and Dowson fell down independently. There is oil on the apex of that first left-hander there, and it would lead one to suggest that perhaps if Mertens has restarted, his machine may have had a punctured fuel tank or something, which has laid fuel on the track. And Dowson very keen to slow the action down there.
And Lucchinelli very lucky not to have his bike fall right on top of him. Freddie Merkel moves into the lead at the moment. Freddie Merkel in front. In second place, that man Gary Goodfellow. Goodfellow moves into second place behind him. Iwahashi is third, and Lucchinelli and Dowson. What an amazing man, Lucchinelli, laughing all over his face, and he was very nearly dead. Merkel leads, Goodfellow second, Iwahashi third, Babel fourth, Doohan fifth, and Tardozzi sixth, and Gary Goodfellow moves into the lead again. The winner of the first race now leads in the second. Merkel second, Iwahashi third, and Merkel's off at the same S-bend. Merkel is off, and surely the race is going to be stopped now. He's injured his leg, and that's Michael Dowson, the far side, waving to warn the other riders, but they'll know that something pretty serious has happened. Here it is again.
Once again, it's the oil problem. Quite categorically, this clears up the mystery. There is oil on that corner. Merkel loses it. Nasty fall there. Very lucky again not to come in contact with the other bikes.
Amazingly lucky. But it's Goodfellow in front now. But for how long can the race carry on? It looks like a red flag is going to be raised, and that will be the end of this race. They'll have to be restarted. After an hour's delay, the second race was restarted, with the grid reflecting the placings after the second lap. So Macchi, Lucchinelli and Dowson were all eliminated. It soon developed into a procession, dominated by the 22-year-old Australian, Mike Doohan. The last lap, and Doohan has extended his lead to some 20 seconds from Iwahashi of Japan, and Goodfellow, the New Zealander, now living in Canada, the winner of the first heat. But he's not going to win the second. The second is going to be won by an Australian.
Interesting to see there the name of Brian Morrison on the leaderboard. His first appearance in the championship, a young Scottish rider entered by the British subsidiary of Honda, and he's going extremely well in sixth place.
Mick Doohan, who took up road racing only 3 years ago and has developed into one of the leading prospects, not just in Australia but in the world, just 22 years old. And moving round now to what will be the first victory for Yamaha in the World Superbike Series. And how comfortable it's been, a commanding ride for Mick Doohan. He crosses the line, and Mick Doohan wins the second race. Never threatened. Once he took over the lead early on, never threatened. Kenichiro Iwahashi takes second place on the Honda. And in third place will be Gary Goodfellow. So here is confirmation of the second race. Doohan wins it, Iwahashi second, Goodfellow third, and then
Steve Soper and Andy Rouse. And away they go for